Hi, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to day three, the last day of the CDOIQ Symposium. And we are kickstarting today's session as part of track G with session 17. We have with us Scott Taylor, the data whisperer, one of the great thought leaders who have regularly interacted in the last easily 5 years plus. And today, Scott is going to talk about data management being the foundation of digital transformation. So I don't want to take much time from Scott here. And over to you, Scott. All the best, and looking forward to hear from you here.
Thank you so much, Prashant. How are you, everybody? Let me share my screen. Am I up okay? We're good?
Yeah, we are good.
Yes. All right. Super. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the virtual session. I'm here physically, but I'm presenting virtually. So I guess I'm virtually here physically. But in any case, we have a live studio audience. Dan is here, Dan Everett, cheering us from the Mount Auburn Ballroom here, high atop the ground, Hyatt in Cambridge. Scott Taylor, Data Whisperer, welcoming all you. Data cats, data kitties, data guys, data gals, data kings, data queens, data jacks, data 10 of clubs, maybe, data jokers, data aces, all you data lovers out there. If you don't have a data friend with you, you've got one on the screen right now with me, Scott Taylor, the Data Whisperer, taking you through, get my stuff going. Here we go. I'm proving that I'm here. All these wonderful people we're seeing. So if you are here physically, come on up to the 14th floor if you'd like to. And if not, we'll see you at one of the breaks, but we'll just kick it off here. So we had a poll in the app, and I know all of you are thrilled to find out the final answers to the poll here. What is your favorite type of chart when it's not a chart? Is it a pie? Is it a donut? Is it a bar? And as usual, bar is an overwhelming success as well, 2-1. There we go. And Dan is giving me a wave. You should see him. There's one guy here and he's doing his own wave. It's just spectacular. So why are we here? I proposed this session, digital transformation, or data management is the foundation of digital transformation. And the proposal feedback I got was, I think everybody's going to agree with you already. So you're probably wondering, a couple of years ago, this was mildly controversial, but what's the edge? The edge is I'm not going to teach you how to do data management and how to apply it to digital transformation. I'm going to try and give you new ways to talk about what you already know, which is the way data powers every organization and how you start to tell that data management story. So that's really my role here and the value I can bring to you as we think about how do you get the attention of the business stakeholders and the executive leadership and the other folks out there who have no time to listen to what you're talking about, but all the money to fund what you want to do. So as I like to think about it, everything we do today turns to data. As your business and your business process, they go from analog to digital, if it goes from manual to automated, everything we do turns to data. And every enterprise of every size is struggling to make sense of all this because instead of providing insight, a lot of times it just brings a lot of chaos. And you probably wonder, and a lot of folks I talk to, they just wonder and they struggle with how do we bring that value? How do we show that data can help grow the business, improve the business, protect the business? Those are really the three buckets of value that I see out there: grow, improve, protect. Anything else is either one of those and you're not naming it right, or is outside of that and it's an nth degree edge case that you probably shouldn't be spending too much time on. But how do you help grow, improve, and protect your business? And really what everybody's looking for from data, and my 20-something years in the space validates this every way, is truth and meaning. How do we determine the truth in our data? How do we derive meaning out of it? And I know some people say you can't handle the truth, right? Jack's out there, without data management, you can't handle the truth. But I will tell you right now, with data management, you can handle the truth. So all respect to Jack, but that's what, our audience just doubled. The great Malcolm Hawker's here as well. I got some of my great friends here hanging out in the Mount Auburn Ballroom on the 14th floor. Join us up here. We're should bring in the beer. Anyway, you can handle the truth out there. And that brings me to my 3-word data philosophy. You can boil my entire data philosophy down to 3 words: truth before meaning. You got to do it that way. Okay. And this is a little exercise in data storytelling. what's the fewest number of words you can use to make your point? Took me a while to get this down from a paragraph down to 3 words. I can't get it any shorter. Maybe I could put an ampersand in there, but that's, the other part. But truth before meaning, that's what we've got to look at. And, it's not chicken or egg here. It's not chicken or egg. It is egg and omelet. You cannot get the value you want out of your data through that meaning until you determine that truth. So that's the process. And some people have asked me, can you really make an omelet with just that? And so for my French data dad joke, I say, of course you can, because 1 egg is enough. Just let that settle for a while. Anyway, Scott Taylor, Data Whisperer. If you don't know me, you know me now. And spoiler alert, I don't do a whole lot of whispering. I'm out there to help you sell, tell, and yell about the power and value of data management. That's what all of us at this conference are here to do. Meta Consulting, that's my practice. Meta, we're about what it's about. We talk about how people talk about data. And no, I'm not changing my name to Facebook. I get that question all the time, so don't even bother to post it. No, Meta Consulting. I provide what I call data evangelism as a service. How do you get people excited and fired up about the work that you do? Because most people at an organization don't understand it. They think it's back office, clerical. On the data management side, it's certainly not the sexy stuff. So how do we get people excited about it? Because all of you have that passion for it, and we got to help bring a voice to it. So I'm a content creator. I do shows with brands. I work with all kinds of brands out there and do all kinds of events. And I focus on the why, not the how. All of you, I'm sure, know how to get this done, but we've got to really spend some time on why it's important. And there's not a business leader out there who's going to care about how you get it done until they have understood the why. I got my chops in this space by working with some really iconic world-class data brands, Nielsen, Dun & Bradstreet, Kantar, traveled the world. In fact, with Malcolm Hawker, who's sitting here as well, we had a road trip that we used to take, but out there spreading the word about data, why data is so valuable to an organization. And in my experience, I've talked to every kind of company at every level of data maturity in every category all across the earth, just limiting my scope there. But really just saw the common themes, the common challenges, the common passion and frustration many of you have trying to get support for data management in your organization. I've got all kinds of accolades here, Data IQ 100, very proud of that. I do a bunch of content. If you haven't seen my puppet video, Too Much Tech Talk, you got to check out that character, the CDO, the Chief Dog Officer. He's out there with the ITB, his friend who speaks only in buzzwords. I got a bunch of videos on LinkedIn and on YouTube, so check that out. And I put everything in a book called Telling Your Data Story. And that's where most of what I'm going to talk about today comes from. Telling Your Data Story, data storytelling for data management. You can see right on the cover, 99% buzzword free. I did not want to overpromise. And right now, actually, also now available in French, which I'm very proud. Somebody translated it in French, and it's 99% Saint Ma a la mode, which of course means no words with ice cream. #1 data book in Amazon in performing arts. For some reason, my book was categorized, among other things, in performing arts. Yes, I'm the only data book in performing arts, which makes me always the #1 data book in performing arts, which also proves you can do anything with analytics as long as you have a story behind it. And finally, people try to be disruptive. I've been disruptive since the 4th grade. Come by that honestly. Here's my 4th grade picture. See if you can pick me out. That's me. I really haven't changed that much. But in my report card, my teacher wrote, Scott is disruptive and distracting to others. So I took that as a compliment, you know. And my mission, as I mentioned, new ways to talk about what you already know. So if I can give you kind of a new twist of phrase, a little nugget, a little positioning, a little story, a little guidance around how to capture the attention and the hearts and minds of your business leaders, then I did my job today. So listen for that sort of stuff. Just to reinforce some great leaders out there, Tom Redman, who's actually up with me on he's on a different channel at the same time with me. We're up not competitive here, but we're speaking at the same time. But he wrote a blog a couple years ago, and he says, as a community, we have failed to educate leaders and craft messages people will listen to about data management, data quality. And I could not agree with him more. And I agree with him so much that I actually wrote a blog right after that said, data management hasn't failed, but data management storytelling has. We've got to get that message out of there. And the overwhelming majority of data management professionals suffer from an inability to demonstrate and then communicate business alignment. That's two things. You got to do it and you got to tell people about it. I'm in the tell people about it part. And both these blogs scored very high in 2020 as everybody was watching. McKinsey, if you don't believe them, certainly try and believe McKinsey here. 6 ways to drive data governance excellence. You take a look at these 6, 3 of them: secure top management attention, integrate with primary transformational themes, generate excitement for data. All of those, there they go, they're jumping up again. All of those mean you need to tell a story. So if I haven't convinced you that you need to tell stories yet, then hang on for the rest of the time, because I'm going to convince you before you're gone. And data leaders must create a compelling narrative to evangelize those data programs and secure that long-term support for business leadership. How many years do you come up and you're fighting for budget again? And meanwhile, there's all other sorts of other departments that are got their BAU budgets, no problem. And for some reason, you have to convince people over and over again. They thought, well, data quality, aren't we done with that? Isn't that finished? Didn't we do that cleansing? Why are you coming back for more? And we all know it's not a project, it's a journey, but that journey takes some doing. Part of the problem is data is really confusing. And if you think about the words we use in this space, that vocabulary itself is part of the problem. The lake house, I'm sure your CEO thinks that's where data goes on vacation. All this talk about the data fabric, the data mesh, what's next? The data Spanx, how to tighten that integration. Reverse ETL. I look at this and say, why isn't it LTE? And just explain that to me. Why don't they call it LTE? They're looking for a standard for identification in the Internet of Things, but it's called idiot. That's not going to work. And you may have saw a great demo the other day, integrated platform as a service with governance as a service. It's called iPassGas. May have just recently released from stealth but deadly mode. Believe me, that is an elevator pitch you do not want to experience. I'll open the window before you do another demo, will you? That's enough of those jokes. SQL, very important tool out there. SQL, a lot of you use SQL. Some of you use NoSQL. I can't see in the chat here, but anybody in the group here know what the NO and NoSQL stands for? No, not only. It's the world's shortest acronym, NO, not only. So it means you're using SQL, not only SQL. Only in the data space does no equal yes. That's our problem, ladies and gentlemen. So you imagine a data scientist walks into Starbucks and he goes, I'll have a no whip, no foam, no chai latte. And the barista goes, oh, you just want a latte? I said, no, not only whip, not only foam, not only chai. That's our problem, the words we use. So when we think about this data journey, truth before meaning, let's dive a little deeper into that. So determining the truth, that's data management, data governance, data quality, data stewardship, ontologies, master data, reference data, MDM, RDM, PIM, RIM, damn, all those foundational activities that you know and I know you need to do to steward and curate and distribute that core data across your enterprise. And you have to do that first before you start to derive meaning out of business intelligence, analytics, data science, data literacy, artificial intelligence, all the fun, cool, sexy, hot stuff that gets a lot of attention and frankly, a disproportionate amount of credit and funding, given the fact that it's directly related to the work you do in data management. So I like to think about it this way, where data starts versus where data ends up. I live in the where data starts part of the space, and many of you do too. And there's 2 types of data storytelling out there now, as far as I'm concerned. So you've got that kind of classic data storytelling, analytics storytelling. I wish it was called from the beginning, but it's not. But it's really stories with data, how to take data and insight, put it in a business context to drive action, super important. But I really felt there was room in the space for a different kind of data storytelling, stories about the data, why managing data is of strategic importance to your organization. And so there's 2 kinds. Every organization needs both. It's not Sophie's choice here. You don't have to pick, but you need both of them. And if you want the book on one of them, you know where to get it. So, and McKinsey said, all right, align with transformational themes. So what are those big macro trend transformational themes going on out there? Here's a whole page full of them: digital transformation, e-commerce, AI, open government, if you're in that space, the fourth industrial revolution. All these transformational themes, they all mean technology. They all leverage technology. And if you've got technology, you need data to power it. And you need data management if you've got data. And so I will reinforce for all of you, and you're welcome to quote me in any board meeting you want, data management is macro trend agnostic. No matter where we were 5 years ago, no matter what's on this page today, no matter what we put on 10 years from now, if it has to do with technology, it's going to need data management. And so it's that foundational piece, as all of you know, but how do you explain it? That's what I'm here to help for. Another way to think about it is just simply good decisions made on bad data are bad decisions you don't know about yet. My most quoted quote, but it's really what we deal with today. How many times do business people run off with some analytics and they find out, oh, that data was bad and they made a mistake somewhere and didn't even realize it? A really long way to say it is the success of every digitally transformative customer-facing initiative, every as-a-service offering, every foray into e-commerce, every enterprise software implementation is inextricably linked to the successful output of your data management efforts. That is the longest way I could say GIGO. Garbage in, garbage out. We all learned that on the first day of data. It's as sure as gravity. What goes up must come down. What goes in must come out. So I'm trying to elevate that too. Think about it as the golden rule of data. Do unto your data as you would have it do unto you. Because what you put into data management is what you get out of business intelligence. If you put bad data into ERP, you get a lousy ERP. You put bad data into CRM, you miss your customer opportunities. Bad data into fintech, you get a visit from the regulators. Bad data into LLMs now, you get hallucinations. Bad data into BI, BS. Bad data into AI, AS, artificial stupidity. No matter how you slice it or how you dice it, the golden rule of data prevails. Do unto data as you would have it do unto you. Can I get an amen from the group here?
Amen.
There you go. There's a little bit of that evangelism I'm talking about.
Great.
There we go. Every enterprise has a data story to tell. You all have one already. It's about why managing data is of strategic importance to your organization. You've all got to be able to be fluent and articulate that story in a succinct way that captures the attention. So how do you start it? You're in the MDM space, you might start it like this. We need a golden record. And your CEO is going to go, well, that sounds expensive. Can we get a silver one? Or maybe you started with some of these esteemed research from these wonderful analysts. This is one of my favorite ones to pick on. Gartner here, take a look at this. Organizations measuring the value of master data. 90% say, no, we do not measure it. And 10% said other. Is yes in other? I hope so. Or maybe you start it this way. Here you go. Here's our data model. Look how beautiful it is. It all works. And the people start to glaze over right away there. The only why your CEO or business leaders are saying is, why am I in this meeting? Why do I have to look at this? The old way, kind of the legacy way, was data is an IT problem. And a lot of people still think that. And it's not an IT problem. It's a business problem. And you've got to be organized around it. And I'll warn you, because IT can be scary. Don't leave your data alone with IT. So let's break it down here. Data management is the foundation of digital transformation. Let me give you some sort of chunks, some ways I've seen every kind of organization deal with this. I try to sum it up in, again, as simple as the fewest number of words I could come up with. So for me, digital transformation means you're providing value to your relationships through your brands at scale. Provide value to your relationships through your brands at scale. That's the fewest number of words I can use, but you think about the words in red. That's what we want to focus on. When we say providing value, again, it's grow, improve, protect. Increase sales, operational efficiency, mitigate risk, all those things that you want to do for your organization. When we say scale, that's where you come in, okay? Scale is hardware, software, data. If you have data, you need data management. And when you think about relationships, every business has a relationship. Everyone. You don't have relationships, you don't have a business. Now, what you call them could be different. Whether you have agreement about what to call them in your organization, that's a whole different trauma you can deal with. But it might be customer, vendor, partner, prospect, citizen, patient, consumer, dealer. Depends on what you make and how you get it to the people who get value out of it. But you all have relationships. Otherwise, you're not doing much at your organization. And you all have brands. Could be a product, it could be a service, it could be an offering, a location, assets, materials, piece parts, but all those things that make up the brand that you represent, that brings those value to those relationships. And so you got to ask yourself, how's your data on that stuff? How is your relationship data? How is your brand data? Is it any good? You got duplicates, you got hierarchy problems, you got taxonomy issues, yeah, I'm sure you do. So when your leaders, a tip here, when your leaders talk about things that have to do with relationships and with brands, you got to be there to show them, you know what, I don't think we have the data quality to really back that up yet. So that's a tip on how to connect those things. And you know me, if you know me well enough, you know I'm a master data fan from way back. Master data, core data, foundational data, whatever you want to call it. Shared data, as Malcolm likes to call it. But that core data, we all know what it is. And that drives your business. Master data is your most important data. It's the data in charge of your business. It's what the rest of your data is about. So if you have consumer data, it's the consumers and it's got all this other data about that. Ways to talk about that, ways to explain that at your holiday party or in the elevator or in the cafeteria with your CFO who's wondering why you want all that money. We're trying to establish a common language in our organization, a common language so everybody has a shared understanding of what we are talking about. We want to try and establish a standard. And whether that standard might be slightly different for sales or for marketing and for operations, depending on their view, it's still a standard so things can roll up and connect. And I like to think about it as simply as possible. Let's think about a really fancy data visualization technique. We'll call it a table. It's really about rows and columns. People are really good at adding columns, but it's really tough to align those rows. Columns are easy, rows are hard. Columns are the analytics, rows are the master data. So you got to be able to align those rows. Everybody try to take two spreadsheets and bang them together. You know that problem times a million when you're in an enterprise. And on a recent trip to the Acropolis, I was struck with the fact that, yes, it is indeed about rows and columns. I'll let that settle for a moment too. Now, the three phases of digital transformation, as I've seen it, I watch a lot of enterprises. I've really seen it as this kind of three-step journey. Might be oversimplified for dramatic effect, but that's what I do. How do you boil these things down to their simplest kind of atomic level? You can always get more complicated. So it starts with this idea of multiple silos, this legacy state most organizations are in. And you've got all these silos: sales, marketing, finance, operations, different systems that support those different departments and domains. And legacy doesn't necessarily mean old. It could mean you just bought a brand new CDP and now you created yet another version of customer. So it's a mindset as much as it is how old your company might be, that you've got all this siloed information that can't connect. People move from there to the idea of being relationship centric across an integrated enterprise. How do you take the most important entities and elements of your business and put it at the center of what you do, both strategically as well as systematically? So people talk about customer 360, product 360, get the full view, centric 360. That geometry works for me. They're getting dizzy in the room here. Think about it that way. How do we get that total view of whatever it is you're trying to manage? So you can move from a legacy state to an integrated enterprise. That's great, but you want to keep going outside your organization to connect more and more through shared data and interoperability with other organizations. And that takes being part of a trust network through these connected ecosystems. How do you deal on a code-to-code basis, on a data-to-data basis, day-to-day, with the rest of the parties that are part of your go-to-market, your customer base, your vendor base, whatever it happens to be. So to move from silos to centric to network, there are two things I've found that are mandatory requirements: authenticated identity and common data standards. These are the universal requirements to allow and enable that to happen. Here's some examples of that kind of thing. In some areas you might be in, some areas you might not, but obviously all the big disruptive platforms out there, Amazon, Uber, Airbnb, Netflix, they all work off this foundational, structured, integratable data, metadata, reference data behind the scenes. Otherwise, when you pick a movie from Netflix, you're not going to get the 30 movies that are related to that in all those different genres and subgenres. Probably the biggest hit in the standard space, the UPC, 50 years, 51 years old now, I think. Just imagine trying to have a grocery experience without the UPC and what that then enabled and the explosion of data that came beyond that because they created that standard. Even something as simple as color. If you're not in the design space, there's a standard for color called PMS, the Pantone Matching System, where each number relates to the mixture of those tints to make that particular color. Standards are everywhere. They say the beauty of standards is so many to choose from, but every vertical out there has some kind of standard, and you need to bring that kind of philosophy into your organization if you want to scale correctly. But the classic challenge, you got different departments. Like I said, sales, marketing, finance, operations. You got different regions. You could be local, you could be global, you could be multinational, however you define it across geographies. You've got distribution methods. How do you bring the stuff you make to the markets that you participate in? Is it just straight digital, or do you make it in a factory? Then that product goes on a truck, that goes in a warehouse, that goes on another truck, that goes on a shelf, that goes in a cart, that goes in somebody's kitchen. Every step you take in the complicated go-to-market you have means there's more and more opportunities for bad, inaccurate, unintegratable data to happen. And then, of course, there's more and more sources of external data. I represented many of them for years, and there's a lot more sources out there now of good, strong, structured data you can use to add more columns to your rows. But multiple systems and workflows create disparate data with differing definitions that lack internal standards. That tends to be the problem. And I've done this enough, I could go into the CIO's office of a Fortune 100 company this afternoon and go, is this your problem? They go, how'd you guess? Because it's everywhere. It's the nature of enterprises. If you're an enterprise, this is the kind of issue you have. Again, at the risk of oversimplifying it, the common solution is data management on the bottom. I always put it on the bottom. I don't draw it in the middle. I don't put it on the top. I don't put it on the side. For all those silos, it's the foundation. For all those columns, it's the row. For all those verticals, it's the horizontal. And that's part of what data can bring to your organization, that horizontal value. So think about it again as that foundation. But data management, I know, I've been there, I've seen it. It can equal pain. You talk to enough folks like I do, they don't mention these kind of business euphemisms like, oh, we have a hurdle or we have a challenge. They talk about physical pain of duplicates, of bad hierarchies, of dealing with all these multiple views. And so I'm going to show you what pain looks like. I know it's still early. Those of you watching from home, have your children leave the room. This is naked data. It's going to be very disturbing to any data stewards out there. Ready for it? Here it is. This is it. You can look, Dan. Don't worry. These are from disturbingly huge global enterprises here who cannot get Coca-Cola right, who don't know how to spell Nestle, who are dealing with 7-Eleven. Look at that. It's a mess. I don't know if you notice it yet, but 7 equals 11, not in base 10. This last column here was from a manufacturer who put a retail field force into stores, and we looked at their call file. And taking a look at that, we actually found there were 275 different configurations of the 7-Eleven banner name. That's the mess. That's the pain right there. That's the garbage in. That is what people are dealing with. There's a lot of creativity in the field of this organization. None of it's selling product. People are coming up with new ways to spell 7-Eleven. And if you think the software is going to fix it on its own, you put this in Excel, you get July 11th. Unless you're in Europe and you get November 7th. So it's not going to work either way. But this is it. This is, as my friend Malcolm here would say, the shame report. You got to create one of these exhibits and rub their nose in it very tenderly, but make sure they see this is the problem. This is the garbage in. This is where the scaling stops. And you got to position it in a way where it's not just simply, all right, well, then just clean this up and move on, because it's deeper than that. This is a symptom. This is not the disease. And here's an example just to show you. I'm sure you'll appreciate this if you're in a product data. Even if the product data is right, the system's got to read it correctly. So this was, I was looking for some shoes and I found this. I don't know if you noticed it yet, but take a look at the sizes. See how they render? I wear an October 5th. Their slogan should be, our shoes look great on a date. Structured data works harder than unstructured data. That's part of the point I'm trying to make. And again, unstructured data gets a lot of glory, a lot of press. People think that that's the future. I guess it is, as long as you structure some of that data. When people talk about using it, they say, oh, we got to put tags on it. What's a tag? It's that structure. So structured data, when you think about most of the data used most of the time in your organization for most of the value, it is that highly structured data that drives reports, customer counts, market share. All those fundamental run the business kind of analytics are based off of this highly structured data. But explaining data structure can be complicated. So again, try to simplify that. I talk about the 4 C's of data structure: master data, core data, however you want to call it. Don't do any data modeling off this. This is a conversational level. It's probably higher than even conceptual. It's more symbolic. But these 4 C's are code, company, category, and country. And so when you think about this, every record needs a code. You need some sort of unique identifier. It validates its existence. It authenticates its identity. If I have a code, therefore I am in a database. Then you want a company, some form of hierarchy, some type of parent-child relationship. Could be ship to, build to, plan to, sell to, all those different levels of a hierarchy. You may engage with those levels in different ways, depending on how your organization is organized. But you want to have that hierarchy structure to do really important use cases, like we just sent a salesman to the bottom left oval. Did they know it was related to the bottom right oval? Really straightforward stuff. Or your CEO is going to go have lunch with their CEO's biggest customer, and they want one number to talk to them about. That's what that hierarchy is all about. Then you want to know what kind of thing it is, and that's where category comes in. And category drives all kinds of analysis, market share, targeting. We're really good with this kind of company. How do we find more of this kind of company? Do you want to have that strong taxonomy for the categorization in your organization for your data? And while I haven't looked at any of your data, I am sure you all have a category called other. You have other? You guys know other, right? Or other, one of my other favorites. I know why people have other, because it's so hard to spell miscellaneous. The only one that didn't have other was a company had an attribute value, DK. We asked them what that meant. Don't know. It's just a different form of other. And then just because they all start with C, you want country or some form of geography. And that geography's got all kinds of granularity. It could be zip code or postal code or city, state, province, media market, sales market, measurement market, all these different configurations of geography. But when you think about these 4 C's and what they can do for your business, if you have them, you know where something is, you know what it is, you know who owns it, and you know that it's unique. Now, you might call it something different. It might be an entity, hierarchy, taxonomy, geography, store, account, channel, market, product, brand, segment, location, a part, make, style, region. It's a thing, it's a parent, it's a type, it's a place, but it's where it is, it's what it is, it's who it is, and that it's unique. And when you have that, all kinds of data problems go away. Really? I just want to take a Zen data moment here. thinking about all these problems going away for you. Everybody in the group, take a deep data cleansing breath in, out through that. There we go. We feel better already, don't we, Ken? Hope your data problems go away with the 4 C's. Now, sort of pulling together this 3-phase idea, talking about the structured data, giving some examples there, talking about how to talk about data management. If I take a look at these 3 phases and I kind of map them on 2 different axes, deeper interoperability drives greater value. That's the premise here. In most cases, that's true. You have this legacy state, multiple silos, not a lot of value, not a lot of interoperability. Integrated enterprise, more connectability, more value, and then finally these connected ecosystems where people are thriving and transacting and working together in a seamless fashion with a tremendous amount of interoperability. And obviously that brings greater value. Marketplaces, standards, that sort of thing. And those 2 requirements, again, authenticated and identity and a common data structure for all the different types of parties that work in your world. And if you look at the through line through here, what you're really trying to do is create and enable semantic consistency at ever increasing levels. So you start off with, if you like, methodologies and processes, workflows, departments, apps, platforms, enterprises, value chains, verticals, ecosystems, entire marketplaces working off the same data or links to the same data, the same common definitions when they speak to each other. That's how things scale. And that's how you get that digitally transformative type of experience. So data management is the foundation of digital transformation, provides that semantic consistency, enables deeper interoperability, and creates greater value. Now, in the last sort of section here, I want to give you some tips on how to pull this story together. So some techniques, some thoughts that are certainly in the book and ways kind of dipping into them at a high level of what I call the 3 V's of data storytelling: vocabulary, voice, and vision. Obviously a play off the 3 V's of big data. My idol, Doug Laney, is here. He named the 3 V's. If any of you are out there have more than 3 V's, you're wrong. There's only 3. I've seen up to 42 V's. Not just stick with the 3. And my 3, again, vocabulary, voice, and vision. You want to establish inaccessible vocabulary. The words you use in your organization about data are important. I think I gave you enough examples of words not to use, those technical terminology, the confusing things that don't even sound right to a listener who knows regular language. It's like if you listen to a doctor or a lawyer talk to other doctors and lawyers, they've got a whole language technically to themselves. If you've ever been in court, you hear words, you think you know what they mean. Believe me, you don't know what they mean. So same kind of thing, you're that data person. You're that doctor, lawyer persona in the ears of your business audience. So you can't use that terminology you think they understand. And using words that sometimes are going to confuse folks, like data product. Well, what if you already make products? Data contracts, legal goals. Should I be involved? Data monetization. Are we going to sell our data? We know that we don't mean that always, but the rest of your organization doesn't realize you don't mean that. So watch the words you use in these kind of conversations and speak the language of your business. Talk in a way that your business will understand it and you will make friends and get a lot more value out of those conversations. You want to skip the legacy lexicon. I think quality is important in data, but I think data quality just doesn't sell. If it sold, we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be hanging here. We'd all be doing a lot more things if we thought we just need better data quality was the way to sell data quality. It sounds like you're whining. It's really emotional and subjective, and everybody's got a definition. Of course, you got to measure it. Of course, you got to have it. I'm not saying it's not important, but when you pitch what you want to do, and that's the kind of story you're telling, you're doing a pitch. Think about if somebody says, oh, you want data quality, why? Come up with the why already. Go in with the why. Lead with why it's important. And oh, what we need to do is to get better data quality. But don't start with, we need better data quality, because it's not gonna land. And things like cleansing, freshness, hygiene, these are all really tactical, clerical, back office, exactly kind of words there. You want to clear the room of business stakeholders, say we're going to launch a data hygiene program. They'll go running for the door. Nobody wants to be involved with that. Use definitive words, structure, standards, as I mentioned, and the kind of enterprise terminology you have for what I related to those 4 C's. What do you call your relationships, your hierarchies, your taxonomies? What's the terminology you use? And look for the industry vertical nomenclature that already exists. Every industry, finance, manufacturing, media, every type of industry has a set of terms that the business folks already understand. Obviously, you want to try and map your data to those kinds of terms, but that's what your leaders are already using as a language. And my little vocabulary tips: start with your business glossary. If you've already done that hard work, there's words there that people understand. Start with that kind of stuff. The second B, you want to harmonize to a common voice. Now, harmony doesn't mean everybody sings the same notes, but it does mean they sound good together. And so you want to be able to make sure your group can sing from that same song sheet and tell that same story to the folks who need to hear it. So you want to share and propagate and create this elevator pitch. If you do have that 5 minutes with your CEO and they are going to ask you, so why are what you're doing is important? You want to be able to articulate that in a well-practiced way. Now, some of you are probably already getting nervous. I don't do public speaking. I mean, obviously I have a fear of not public speaking, but that's me. But most folks don't. And again, I don't do the data work you do, so we're a team here. But practice. Get up in front of the mirror. Get up in front of your partner or your dog, or talk to your team about it and work it out. Do that rehearsal. You don't want to do it the first time when you really have to land it. It's just not worth it. Every athlete, every professional out there practices, rehearses, has coaches to get as better as possible. So when the time comes, they can hit the mark. And don't do those technical explanations. You want this consistent tone and tenor in the way you describe it. Come up with internal communication vehicles. It's really an internal marketing program inside. How do you brand it? How do you communicate this? How do you get people excited about it in some way? Think of a slogan. Think of, there's folks who have t-shirts. They've got newsletters. They anoint data heroes. They grab a community and build that. And everybody's excited about what data can do for them. And very few of them know how it gets done, but they know why it's important. And if you're looking for symbolism, if you're looking for imagery, if you're looking for similes and analogies and those figures of speech, look at your own business. I don't have time here to go off on my full rant on why data is not the new oil, but that kind of thing just doesn't. The short version of why I don't like it is because everybody doesn't have the same interpretation. And if everybody doesn't immediately know what you're talking about, then you haven't served that imagery hasn't served its purpose. The purpose of that kind of way of speaking is to shorten the distance to understanding. And confusing metaphors and overused cliches in the data space don't do that. So look at your own business. A couple of examples here. You're a healthcare company. Data is the lifeblood of our organization. A healthy business runs on healthy data. I heard a CDO of a water utility talk about how they refined all the water and filtered it here. It went through the pipelines. They turned the tap. It was a trusted output. Everybody in that organization understood what the water utility did, and he just used that as a metaphor for the business. Same thing with a logistics company. We ship data from here to there. We got to understand the provenance. We got to understand the timing. All those elements are there in your own business. I saw somebody from the Department of Defense talk once, and he said, data is the payload of our business. Not everybody could say that, but it worked for him. But be careful. One example I do have, unfortunately, is there was a tobacco data leader, and he was just talking to me about the importance of data quality. He said, data is just like air. You got to breathe in this fresh air and let it fill your lung. I'm like, stop it right there, man. This is not going to, I get it, but this room isn't going to like that. So use your own business. That's my exercise I'm giving to you. Look at your business, look at your company's motto or slogan, and put data in there instead of some other word. See if that works. Try that out. But people will go, oh, I get it. It's the data version of what we do. And then that'll help explain it. And my tip here, seek out other storytellers in your organization. Again, I do this for a living. Unusual in the data space that I just tell stories, but there are other people in your organization who know how to put these stories together and leverage their expertise. They're in marketing, they're in sales, they're in communications. Depending on the size of your company, you may have programs that help you present, pull things together, get the nerves out, work on presentation skills. But you've got to, if you want to be a strong data leader in your organization, if you want to be a true CDO, where that C means you're at the top table, you're at the big person table there, then you're going to be competing with other storytellers out there. And marketing knows how to tell stories for a living. Sales, if they don't tell stories, they don't make quota. So you're up against some people who aren't as good at data, but they're better at storytelling. So you want to make them your friends to help you tell your better story. The last V here is illuminate your business vision. Everything you do in data needs to enable the strategic intentions of your enterprise. Where are you going, and why is data an important factor in that? Show that. People talk a lot about data strategy. I'm sure it's important, but they focus too much on sort of that siloed view of just data. The reason you have data is to help your business, is to enable your business, is to help bring your business where it wants to go. That's the place to aim. And think about those major initiatives you have that have to do with relationships and brands and those macro trends. Your CEO and your leaders aren't going to talk about data quality. They're not going to talk about data management, but they are going to talk about their relationships. They are going to talk about their brands. They are going to talk about these macro trends. And it's your job and your challenge to connect the fact that you got 250 ways to spell 7-Eleven to we can't get there with these relationships that we're trying to build. I listen to CNBC all the time, and just because I'm hardwired to it, I'll hear some leader talk about where they're going with their organization or all these wonderful transformative things they're doing. And I just know in the back of my mind, it's like, well, I wonder if they have the data to back it up. I bet their data sucks. I bet they can't get, they're going to need MDM to do that for sure. Again, they're not talking about MDM, but they know they need it, or we know they need it behind the scenes. And keep that value focused. A bit of a cliche. For some reason in the data community, we need to keep reminding ourselves that values what we do. Again, compared to other departments, sales leaders aren't sitting around pondering in LinkedIn, how do we show value to our organization? Finance isn't wondering how they demonstrate value to the organization. If we want to seriously be one of those departments, the way we know we want to be, we've got to crack this code here. So it's not a question of if, it's everybody understands it. So keep focusing on those areas of grow, improve, protect, and you'll have plenty of room to demonstrate your value. And my vision tip, how do you know? How do you know the vision of your company? How do you know where your company's trying to go? They're talking about it all the time. Listen to what your leaders say. So read your annual report, your strategy statements, your company meeting, that first 10 minutes when they're talking about here's where we were, here's where we're going. Your investor day presentations. If you're a public company, that is a gold mine to find where your company's trying to go, to listen to your leaders in their full game day uniform, go out there and try and get support from the street and from the communities. They're going to talk about those strategic intentions, and it's your job to peel those apart. But it's all there. It's all there. When I used to prep to go into companies when I was at Nielsen and Dun & Bradstreet, I would look at those kinds of assets and go, okay, here's what their leaders are saying. And then go and talk to the data folks and say, here's what your leaders want. Let's help you get the data to help them get there. I'm going to give you an example here, actually from my Dun & Bradstreet days, an investor day presentation we took apart. This is kind of a composite from an enterprise where we tried to map the 3 V's to it. In this particular case, they had an ROI calculation. They had the whole roadmap on how to put it together and implement it, but they still needed kind of that wrapper, that story, that way to connect it to the business. So folks would break through and understand that this was an important thing to do. And so looking at this, again, it's sort of a composite here, but let's see if we can find the vision in this slide here. I think it's right up front. It says our vision. It's right there. Most of the time it is. So you don't have to, it's not a where's Waldo. They'll say, here's our vision. So let's take it apart. In this case, our vision, we aspire to be the premier partner of choice for customers and suppliers. Relationships, right there. One sentence. It's all about relationships. their voice was integrated in this behind the scenes in the strategic framework: customer engagement, enterprise effectiveness, brand management, grow the business, improve the business, protect the business. It was all behind the scenes in that. Differentiate at a local, have local productivity, all of these kind of bimodal different levels that they had to deal with and coordinate at, from a data perspective, that caused all kinds of dissonance and disparateness. So there were challenges behind there. And then the vocabulary came behind these fast facts, doing business in 90 countries. Imagine how many ERPs they had when they tried to pull this together. Different suppliers, 100,000 customers, all their kind of vocabulary of their business was behind all that. So again, really sort of over summarized view of this. It's a lot deeper, but it's this apparent. When you know how to find it, you'll start to see it everywhere. And just a punchline to this. So how do we say, all right, you aspire to be the premier partner of choice for your customers and suppliers. This was a D&B run we did. We took a look at it, just had to show one record. Here's Panasonic Communications, that 185 copies, duplicates of the same record. It's a mess. How are they going to get there? There's nothing strategic about that. That wasn't on purpose. That's the mess they're dealing with. So how could they possibly be the premier partner of choice for Panasonic Communications when they can't even roll up the data for that single entity? That's the problem. So way I now very quickly tie messy duplicates in the back room to the strategic intention of that enterprise. Those connections are there. So leverage these 3 V's: vocabulary, the words you use; voice, the way you talk; and vision, why it's important. Now, I don't know if there's any questions. I've just been rolling along here. I don't even know if anybody's online. I know Malcolm and Dan are here, which is thrilling. I had one more story I was going to tell, but I don't think my video is going to work, but I can wrap it up after that. But anybody out there? Are you out there? I can hear you clicking.
Coming from inside.
Maybe not. Coming from inside the house. Prashant, did you see anything? No? Yes? Should I keep going? I don't know. Dead air here. All right. What?
Okay. So thanks, Scott. I don't see any questions in the poll.
That's okay.
Yeah. So overall, thank you, Scott. Thank you very much for your time. So
I'm going to wrap it up then.
That,
I got,
okay, go ahead.
I got another wrap up here. So, whoops, where'd I go? I'm missing the slide. Yeah, so that's here. Anyway, so thank you, everybody. Follow me if you can. Kind of wrapping it up here. Use those 3 V's: truth before meaning, golden rule of data. Data management is macro trend agnostic, no way around it. And again, I'm Scott Taylor, Data Whisperer. Follow me on LinkedIn, subscribe to my YouTube if you want to buy my book. I want to thank the studio audience for coming here today. Woo! We had a great time here in the Mount Auburn Ballroom up high atop the Grand Hyatt. Scott Taylor, Data Whisperer. Thank you all for your time. And here's to better data.
Okay, Scott, thank you very much for your time. So again, love the 3 V's of data management: vision, voice, and vocabulary. Apart from the other 3 V, which is volume, velocity, and variety. So I have 2 sets of 3 V's to go with now. So yeah, thank you very much for your time, and take care and stay safe.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Cheers.
Okay. See you guys. See you. Bye.